Today's class is entitled Christmas Family History Activities for Children. Our presenter is Jerroleen Sorensen. Jerroleen is an avid advocate for using family history to bring families together, to create common experiences, and to generate an interest both in adults and children in their ancestors through interesting and fun activities. We appreciate the time she's taken to prepare this presentation and her willingness to teach us ways to expand our use of those family search benefits. We'll now turn this time over to Sister Sorensen.
I'm so happy to be here today. I just love Christmas, and I love mainly because I enjoy being with my family and being with my grandkids. We have a lot of fun. Today's program is just a little bit, maybe a little shorter, but what I'd like to do is ask each of one of you who are listening to it to please consider any activities or ideas that you have and share them with the rest of us on the chat so that we can maybe get some extra ideas, maybe better ideas than I had. So this is Family Fun for Christmas. So before we start, I just kind of like to reiterate, for most of you, you probably already know this, but I think sometimes there's some very interesting things about family history that maybe some people don't realize how important it is in the lives of children. So as a teacher, I taught children from preschool up through high school. So I always tried really hard to get them to look at their families. I know that in the schools, there's always a lot of diversity between family structures and so on, but it was interesting to me that no matter what their family structure was, they always were interested in finding out something about their backgrounds, the background of their family. So why to do that then? Why is it important for children to learn about their family history? There are quite a few articles on this that you can find on the internet, and a lot of studies that have been done. They actually have done real social science studies on this very subject. And the conclusions of most of them are pretty much the same. And that is that family history provides a background or a foundation for children to grow on. And these are four of the facts that I think are maybe most important that they have found in relation to this idea of family history for children. The first is that the connections that it brings to them. Children, and they need connection, and it's really interesting to me because I've read and I've seen documentaries and so on of people who were adopted as children. And the ones who did the best were the ones who felt connections to not only their own relatives that adopted them, but their own relatives that were their biological relatives. Not necessarily physical connections, but just mental, spiritual, and factual connections to who their ancestors were on both sides of that family that they were able to find. So people need connection, and especially children do. And so when children know that they have ancestors who did hard things, sometimes ancestors who did funny things, sometimes if they know ancestors who were a little bit famous or who did inspiring things or who had a lot of hardship, whatever things that they see that, oh my goodness, those people were related to me and they can do that. They could do those things. They could do those good things. They could do those hard things. And sometimes you can tell them, well, my ancestor was a thief. He got thrown in jail, but guess what? That doesn't mean that you have to be that way either. You can turn that kind of thing around just like the rest of his family has. So don't be afraid of the bad stuff as well as the good stuff. Knowing the culture that a person comes from as a child, it gives them a sense of belonging to something greater than themselves. And so whether it's the culture of another country or the culture of the state or the town or wherever it is that they're living as ancestors, that your ancestors were living, it's something greater than the child, and they see that. So it's a really good idea to kind of give kids an idea of where people came from and what they were doing when they lived there and what kinds of jobs they had and so on. Kids who have a strong link to their ancestors' stories and lives feel more grounded. They have fewer emotional problems as teens, and they're more confident in difficult situations. So this is why it's important for kids to know the stories, not just the facts, but the stories. So as many stories as you can find out. And I did a class on telling stories, telling family stories in another class. If you want to look that up on YouTube, it gives you some ideas of how to do that, how to go about finding those stories and how to go about telling them. And then family history encourages children to feel compassion for others because they review the hardships that some of their ancestors overcame, and they feel pity or compassion or love or understanding for those people and the things that they did. So I put that little article at the bottom here. It's an Ancestry blog article called "Is Family History Good for Kids?" If you want to read more about this, there's a whole bunch of them, but that one's a really good one. Now we'll just start. These are some of the games and things that I came up with. Some of them I do myself or have done in the past. Some of them are new to me. So just some things I just made up on the spur of the moment, and hopefully they'll be fun for you. So fact or fiction. I find fact or fiction a really fun game. Kids love to know if something's true or false, and so we have a fun time with this. So make cards on Christmassy paper that have tours, like, so you can print them out and then just glue them on to Christmas paper, like this little sign there. So just make colorful cards on Christmassy paper with true or false statements about your own family's ancestors. And you can make stuff up, obviously, because there has to be some false and there has to be some true in there. It's really fun if you make some of them really silly, kind of funny, kind of outlandish, like so-and-so landed on the moon and things like that. Well, especially little kids love that kind of stuff. So then you can do it a few different ways. You can go around the circle, answer true or false. You can also have everybody hold one of those little sticks with true or false on, and they turn their sticks, and then you tell them who's right, and then you give points if you want or whatever. So this is an example of a question. Great Grandpa Sorensen used to take sleigh rides into Malad in the winter to buy presents for Christmas. Things like that. Just simple true or false questions. You can put facts in there if you want. I think old-fashioned Christmases are really, really fun. I had a friend this year who I went over to her house, and she had just recently, with her daughter and granddaughter, made popcorn stringers and put cranberries on it and put it on their tree, and talked about why people would do that in the past and so on. So there are lots of things you can use to decorate an old-fashioned Christmas tree. If you don't want to decorate your own Christmas tree that way, the big one, you can always do it on a little small one. Or even do a paper one and just stick stuff on it that seems old-fashioned. And while you're doing it, you can tell stories about your own Christmases or have children tell about their favorite Christmases while you're working. Then you can sing a few carols and talk about what gifts their ancestors might have received on Christmas. I know my dad got a pair of skis when he was 16 that his dad actually made for him out of 2 planks of wood. And that's kind of cool. I have a lot of really great stories about Christmas for my grandkids because my grandparents were crazy. They did a lot of really fun stuff with their kids. So this is kind of a fun idea, kind of on the journal side of things, making a Christmas memory book. You can buy them. You can buy them blank, and or they sometimes have questions in them and stuff. Or you can just make your own if you don't want to spend the money on it. Make your own Christmas journal with like a notebook or something like that. And you can put in photos, you can write stories, you can tell memories in there. You can have everybody in the family contribute some to it. You can compile it after Christmas and have it published by an online book publisher. You can keep an actual Christmas journal, make it day by day by day or whatever, however you want to do it. But that's a really nice, actually, idea. And there's one here was a 25-year family Christmas memory book. So that would be kind of a nice present for our newlyweds, if you ask me. This is kind of fun. This is just an illustration. I think you could maybe do something like that if you wanted to. You can just make a large Christmas tree shape from paper. Green paper, put a star on top, and then put your family tree together in that Christmas tree shape, either with like words that are written on the names that are written on pieces of paper, or just write them on the tree. And so then it winds up in a pyramid shape. You can also put each person's name on paper ornament and hang them on the tree, either in order of the pedigree chart or just hang them up. I loved this idea. This is from growinglittleleaves.com. And the instructions are there, but you can see it's a magnetic tree. And so each one of the kids can put it together because each one of the pictures and each one of the tree strips is on a magnet and a star. And then you just can put them on a cookie sheet, have the kids do it kind of like a puzzle. And that's really kind of fun. I loved that. There's also another really cool activity site called A House Full of Sunshine. And she has a bunch of Christmas activities to do as a family. You can do this type of activity page or booklet together as, you know, just have everybody take a page and then put it together as a book or whatever you want to do, those kinds of things that you can print out or buy. Again, you don't have to like be real super crafty, because I am not a super crafty person, and we do a lot of fun stuff together. And a lot of it I just take offline. This is really fun. I love advent calendars. And so I love doing this with my grandkids, and every year we have an advent calendar that we do together. So there's different ways you can do it. You can research the traditions and like write on each day if you want to. There's another page after this one too that's got some ideas as well. You can like make a booklet. So on each day you can put a fact or an illustration on each page and then make it into a booklet. You can relate the historical facts of your own ancestors' life to each day, something like that. Or you can just do it once, you know, just do a Christmas traditions night for family home evening or something like that. This is Family Tradition Show and Share. So if you had a family home evening about family traditions, you could have each member bring in an object or picture that they would like to share that reminds them of a special Christmas memory or tradition that they love. You can talk about how that tradition came about. You can talk about why memories are important and how to save them, and record the memories or thoughts that each person has and put them on each person's personal family search memories page. Or you can talk about new traditions and do some different things this year that maybe everybody would like to do later on in their lives. You can use a storytelling tree. You draw this is really easy to do. You just draw a simple Christmas tree on paper or on a big piece of paper, however you want to. This is a school thing, but it works really well with families either, so it's great. So you write who on one level, when on the next level, what on the next level, and why on the next level. So you kind of have 5 layers that go up the tree. And then each person tells a Christmas memory or family story by starting with who. So you don't tell the story like as a narrative too much. You have to tell the narrative part, the what. But you start out and you say, da-da-da, this person and that person. When did it happen? And then you tell where it happened. And then you tell the story itself. And then at the end, you say, why is the story important? Or why do you think they did the things that they did? Or why do you think this happened this way? And it's actually really good for kids, especially elementary school kids, because it's actually the way you actually tell a story. So it kind of teaches them something at the same time that they're doing something fun. And then you can also make a tree for each person with the 5 ornaments on it, with 5 big ornaments that they can write their answers on, and then attach it to the tree, or just one big tree, or one tree for each person, however you want to do that. There are tons of Christmas board games that you can buy if you want to. They're a little bit pricey. You can look on Etsy, or you can look on eBay. Mostly Etsy has these. Pinterest has a lot of interesting things on board games for kids for Christmas. But this is really cool. So this history, www.hhhistory.com, 2012 Christmas board games. That was such a fun website, and I think you should go look at it. It's really great. It takes you through the history of Christmas board games, mostly from the early 1900s and late 1800s. It's really cool. And then you can make your own board game, either old-fashioned looking like those, or else something like this one with, just little L's that you find online and make it into a game. This is a real advent calendar. What I think is really cool, and you can do it any way you want really, is either you take a page or else you make like a little calendar like this one that's in the left-hand corner, some kind of fancy calendar. And you can do it with names, you can do it with photos, or you can do it with facts, anything you want. for each day before Christmas till the 25th. And then you can either make pockets, or like this one, would you just take off the number on the one on the left. You just paste it on the page, or whatever you want to do, however you want to do it. But that is so cool. And if you don't have time this year, which you don't, you might do it after Christmas and start on the 26th and do it for the 12 days after Christmas, or the 16 days after Christmas, as a kind of a thing for ancestors. How many, like if you go from your grandparents to your great grandparents and so on. This was really cool. My daughter-in-law came up with this for my grandkids, and I just love it. So she took little cups like this, just little tiny paper cups. And she took 24 of them, but you could do it again after Christmas if you wanted, as a 12 days of Christmas kind of special thing for the kids after Christmas. But she took 24 small cups and she glued them into a flat, kind of like a fruit box, or, one of those boxes that you can get at the grocery store, Costco, that's got maybe 3 inches or so on the edge. So you glue them into the box, and then you can put a piece of candy or a little toy or whatever you want to put in each cup. And then you cover each cup with a piece of parchment paper, a round piece of parchment paper, and glue it down along the edges of the cup. On top of the parchment paper, then you'll put a number and an ancestor's name or photo on it. And then every day the child will take off the photo or the name and break through the paper and then eat the candy while you tell them about that person's that's picture or the name of the person that was on that cup. Here's a few more ideas. You can make gifts for family members by hand and give them to them. You can interview grandmas and grandpas on Zoom or in person, record your interview with them about their favorite Christmases, and then put the conversation as you recorded it on the Family Search memory page. You can make and take a Christmas treat to a relative you haven't maybe seen for a while, and talk to your kids about that relationship and why it's important to you. You can have a family evening or a cousin sleepover or grandparent fun night, and take turns telling each other why you think each person is a gift in your life. Give gifts, make gifts, do a lot of fun stuff that evening. You can have a Zoom party. That's what we do in our family. We have kids that are all over the country, so we just get together on Zoom, and the ones that can come to the house. Sister Esplin gave a really great idea of breaking out and doing maybe small. You could probably do the small games like the fact or fiction game in the breakout rooms with different groups grouped together. That would be fun. I like that. Thanks for telling me that one. And then last, of course, but not least, tell your children the story of their elder brother's first Christmas. He's your best relative of all, right? Find a good illustrated book about the Christmas story and read from the scriptures, set up a creche, or look at beautiful paintings on the internet of the Nativity, and talk about why Jesus is important to you and how we can give gifts to him by giving love and service to others that we love. If any of you have had any brainstorms or wanted to share anything, I hope you would have put them in the chat as we're going along. If not, then do you have any questions or any suggestions?
I love your ideas. And MyHeritage has the new app that lets you put your photo in time periods. So I'm having my grandkids, a couple of the younger grandkids who've been taking a class in school where you do photoshopping. I'm going to have them put pictures of our ancestors and then some of the people who are living that they know in time periods, and then we'll on screen and play.
Cool. That sounds great. That's a great idea.
Gordon says there's a fun program called Cahoots that you can put in questions and do over the internet.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Okay, here's another one. One of our family traditions seems to have developed over the years. I was given a small blue teddy bear ornament when I was a baby that Brenda says does not fit the decor of our Christmas tree. Our grandchildren come every year to decorate the tree, and they put my bear front and center for all to see. Brenda hides it somewhere, and then the grandchildren find it and put it back. somewhere else, and so on and so on. That's awesome.
That's really fun, isn't it? That sounds like a great idea. Sort of like the Elf on a Shelf kind of an idea. I thought of a couple things you could do with Elf on a Shelf. If you wanted to use that particular thing, you could put family history information there with the elf when he was on the shelf and read it as well every day. I've never done Elf on a Shelf myself, but I know a lot of people really enjoy that, and some of the kids really like it. So that's another little idea.
Last year, our grandkids range in age now from 7 to 33, and we have great grandkids. So we divide them into teams so that they have a mixture of families and ages. And we had them, I gave them 3 different tunes that they could choose from. And then they had to write a family and sing it and present it. And they had more fun doing that than I think most anything.
Maybe I'll do that this year. Well, if no one else has any suggestions, I appreciate your coming and listening to this, and I hope that you enjoyed it and got some good ideas. Thanks a lot.